Hey, what's going on, everyone? June here with Hapa英会話, and joining me today is Kelly. Hey, Kelly, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
So today, let's talk about when it is appropriate to hug someone as a form of greeting. I'm going to start by asking you, do you consider yourself as a hugger? Are you a hugger, Kelly?
That's such a difficult question because I feel like I definitely used to be.
Used to be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when I was in college and everyone's equals, I definitely feel like I was a hugger for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I kind of got into the business world, I feel like it really, really depends. I worked on film and TV sets a lot. So you'd work like 6 months with the same 50 to 100 people and then not see them for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if I saw that specific person, I might run up and give them a hug, but not anybody else there that day 3 years later, right?
Right.
So I feel like as you get older, people stop being huggers as you work and you're kind of around people that aren't at the same level as you, either in the workplace or age or whatever. So I feel like I am a hugger at heart, but maybe not so much in reality anymore, just different life situation.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you bring up. When you're talking about high school, when you're talking about college, these are your friends, these are your classmates, these are people that you typically see every day. You form a relationship, and I think generally speaking here in the United States with those types of people, whether the person is a male or a female, it's pretty common to hug each other when you greet them as a form of saying hello. And also when you maybe say goodbye, you might hug each other one more time and say goodbye, right? Yeah. Would you ever say that hugging is okay in like a business setting? So you just kind of briefly touched on people that you're working with for 6 months, you got to know them, and then maybe you see them again, you hug them. But aside from that, let's say for example, you have a meeting or like people that you work with, is it ever okay to like give somebody a hug instead of a handshake?
I would say in a traditional office setting or a traditional when you think of those stock photos of like business people in suits and like glass-walled offices, I would say no, not in America.
Right, and I totally agree with that, is that like in workplace type environments, you don't really see people hugging each other. And if you do, I mean, I guess you wouldn't really think too much of it, but it's just not the right place to hug people as a form of greeting, right? At work.
Sure. Yeah, the handshake is better.
Right.
Now, again, this might be a little different. One of the big things that Americans have some trouble with is when you go to some European countries, it's not a handshake. It's like a kiss on the cheek, which is really intimate to someone that you've never met before or in a business setting. And I'm not an expert on that. But definitely, I know for a lot of Americans, that's kind of a big culture shock that even in business, that you're kind of expected to have a much more intimate greeting than just the handshake, which compared to Japanese business, even a handshake is a little bit intimate.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, right? Everything is bowing over there and you want to make
sure it's like like social distancing, right? It's like
exactly
6 feet away.
So let's go from business to, let's say, like friends now. So I mean, friends that you grew up with, friends that you attended college with, I think, just naturally the hugging, greeting type things happen, right? Now, let's say, for example, you are a Japanese person who came to the United States to study abroad, and you become close, with some of these friends or classmates. There's probably no textbooks or rules out there to tell you like when exactly it is okay for you to go in for a hug to greet someone, but just from the general feel, when do you think the right time to break that like shaking hand greeting to like a hugging is? Like how would a Japanese student know that like maybe it's okay now for me to go in for a hug to greet somebody?
I mean, I feel like even among Americans that it's definitely personal preference. Like there's people that I know that are not huggers and that are just really uncomfortable with physical contact. Even if they're very friendly, they just either didn't grow up that way, or they're just really nervous in a group, or it's just not something that they think about. And it's not, supposed to be offensive. That's just kind of their personality. And I know some people that are like way too overly huggy and touchy, where you're like, oh, we're doing another one. Okay, we've done like 6 and we've been here 2 minutes and it's a little too much. My rule of thumb is, if you're not sure, whether you're Japanese, American, doesn't matter. If you're not sure, wait for that person to come to you. If they are a hugger and they're comfortable with it, go ahead and give them a hug back. If you don't really know, it's kind of hard to read those cues if they're just hugging you to be polite, or if they're actually super uncomfortable, if they don't feel like you're that far in your friendship yet. I definitely feel like it's the greeting. So like if you're coming into, the restaurant, oh, everyone will stand up and give. There's a big difference between like this hug. And like this hug. Right? There's a big difference between that.
Huge difference,
So it would generally be like the greeting, oh, hey, great to see you. Small hug, side hug, whatever. And then as you're leaving, if you're randomly hugging people in like the middle of a conversation, it's a little bit strange. There's kind of like not really the like kickoff to, okay, everyone's meeting each other, everyone's saying goodbye sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely beginning and end of the gathering is the most common times.
And yeah, like you mentioned, I think there are different types of hugs. If you're greeting somebody and you just kind of give them like that big, like bear hug that like you're squeezing them, that would make everybody feel pretty uncomfortable.
I mean, there's always those people, like there's some friends that I have that are just really good huggers. And like, I know this one guy, he's got this giant orange beard, big guy, and he just gives like the best like bear hug. And you're just like, oh, that was just cozy. Like, he's got a great personality, and you can tell that's like just, he's a very warm person. So, you always feel like, oh, okay, that was, I feel energetic now. Like, all right, that was a good hug. It lifts your spirits, right? And you don't have to be like that. But again, see if maybe they go in first, and if you're comfortable, you can do a hug, or you can just do a little side one if you're not really there yet. Everybody kind of has different levels that they do. And I think now people are pretty conscious about, is it okay to hug somebody? Do you feel comfortable? Are we really that close yet? Are we not that close? Because the weirdest thing is, if you're not close enough for a hug and someone comes in and you're like, I don't know what to do right now. It's like really awkward.
And it's funny that you bring that up with that awkward situation. I think obviously, there are situations where even with me, with newer people, like I probably follow the rule that you do. If, they come in and give me a hug, then, I'll return the hug in return. But there are also those, awkward situations where you have like friend gatherings and it's like a friend of a friend. So you're hugging friends, and then there's that next person that you're about to greet where you know them, but you don't really know them quite enough yet. Maybe you met them once or twice. So you hug, and then you kind of make eye contact with that person. You're like, okay, what's gonna happen here? Do I go in for a hug, or do I do a little wave, or do I stick my
right? Like, do you know what to do? I don't know what to do. How far do you want to go? And then you just sort of are like, hey. I mean, it happens, and especially like you mentioned, if like 2 groups of friends are kind of coming together and there's varying levels of relationship, do you hug longer? Do you side hug? Do you do the bear hug? Do you do the hug where you like pick the other person up? It gets a little confusing. So definitely see what the person across from you is doing. And if you feel comfortable, you can return it. If you don't feel comfortable, I mean, you can just say, hey, I'm, nice to meet you. Hi. You can avoid it if you want to.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I hope you guys got a little understanding of what the hugging culture is like here in the United States. Don't forget, Kelly offers amazing lessons on Cafe Talk. All of her information is listed in the description below, or you go to cafetalk.com and find her there. Kelly, thank you very much.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye, guys.